Okay, so we're looking at the War of 1812, and I know this says that this is the war that should have never been fought. I want you to reflect on what Jefferson is doing with the military. What has he just done? He shrunk it, right?
Yeah.
So are we ready for war?
No.
Are we politically united?
No.
Do we have enough money to fight a war?
No.
No, and many people said this is the second war for independence because, again, we're fighting Britain. Because is Britain really respecting America?
No.
On the seas, what are they doing?
Impressment.
Impressment, seizing our cargo. On our land, are they respecting us? Who are they trading with?
Indians.
And we're going to see these are the things that are going to be brought together that will eventually lead to war. But before we really decide on war with England, there is other issues. We know in Europe the Napoleonic Wars are going on. And when England and France are facing off, it's actually England and Russia together against France. Napoleon has a whole idea that he's going to conquer all of Europe. But there is a problem. In the Battle of Trafalgar, we're going to see that the English are superior in the ocean. So this is why they're attacking all the shipping. If you prevent France from getting the resources, France cannot wage war. But France is a beast on the land. In the Battle of Auschwitz, they realized that they cannot defeat. So y'all remember last year Napoleon took nearly over everything except England and Russia, right? And the reason why is because he had a great military. And they're going to be at a stalemate because he cannot go out into the ocean because England's superior there. So what they're going to do is they're both going to attack each other's trade. And the U.S. is the largest neutral trader to both. And it actually starts off with Napoleon. So you should have this notes here. And Napoleon is going to start it off with the Berlin Decree. He says no vessel coming from or touching a British port shall be received in European port or France or her allies. So if the Americans go to England to trade, can they trade with Europe? Can they trade with Europe? No. What would this do to the U.S.? Would it increase its revenue or decrease its revenue?
Decrease.
Okay, so in reaction, because France is at war with England, England's going to come out with its own decree, which you should have seen this in question 14 of your study guide. It says the British Orders of Council. It says all vessels trading from an enemy port. Who is this enemy? France. So if you're a vessel trading from an enemy port, you shall be subject to capture. So if you go to France, they're going to do what? Capture you. Unless you first put in port and pay a fee to get a certificate. What does that sound like? You must come to England first, pay a fee to obtain a certificate. Mercantilism. Do y'all know of an act that we've seen before in the past that this should bring up PTSD? They're making us go to England. Navigation Acts. This fee is equivalent to a tax. Are the Americans going to be happy with the British Orders of Council? This is going to bring up old wounds from the American Revolution. And so what we will see is Napoleon then will pass the Milan Decree. And he says any vessel submitting to a search by an English ship or paying a fee is going to be considered an English vessel and is liable to seizure. So is it safe for American boats? Is it safe for American boats to be in the high seas? If we're going to England, who's going to capture us? French. If we're going to France, who's going to capture us? And if we don't go to England first, France is going to capture us, right? So we're in a pickle. We essentially, is trade free at this time? No. But many people are going to look at the British first. The British, okay, wait. The British are seizing our ships because they're trying to get the cargo not to go to France, right? So that they could win in the war. The other thing we know that they're impressing our sailors. And we talked about this, but there's one thing you have to understand. I'm going to draw just a little picture. Okay, here's the United States, right? And it kind of goes in like that. Here's the Chesapeake, right? Do y'all know that the U.S. within 10 miles, have any of you ever been on a cruise? Y'all know if you're within 10 miles, you're in the U.S. borders, right? If you're in the water. Outside of those 10 miles, it is international waters. Does the U.S. still have rules within these borders of the water? Yes. So if you've ever been on a cruise, they have everything locked up. And the moment they cross international waters, they open up all the food, they open up all the drinks, they open up all the shopping because it's tax-free. So within this 10 miles, whose rules still are adhered to?
U.S.
U.S. So there is a U.S. boat. It's in the Chesapeake Bay right here. And the British look at this boat and they're like, there's some deserters on it. And they go into that boat and they demand it. Should the British be able to do this within our own waters? No. This is a flagrant violation of our international borders. They steal those guys, right? And that's the Chesapeake Fair, right? You should have seen that on your study guide on, I don't know where it is. On question 16, that the British captain demanded those sailors, and when he didn't do it, he basically attacked their boat, right? Should they be attacked? No. So eventually in the future when you go on a cruise and you hear them honk the horn, they're 10 miles out. And everything will go open up and it'll be a party, okay? So, in international waters, does the U.S. have jurisdiction? No, it's within 10 miles of our boundary, okay? So now, is the British doing something to provoke us into war? Yes. The other thing we know, they're in these forts. We saw the British in these forts, right? Are they respecting our freedom if they're in these northern forts? Who are they out here to trade with?
Indians.
The Indians. And what are the Indians giving in exchange?
Fur.
Fur. And what are they giving to the Indians? And so all of a sudden we have Indians out here, and as our western settlement is moving, these Indians are now attacking. And this is going to lead to the Battle of Tippecanoe. We're going to see two guys, Tecumseh and Prophet, two Shawnee brothers, which you saw on 21. They were determined to stop this flow of western settlers. So they're going to be aided with the military weapons from the British, right? And they're going to start attacking settlers. And we're going to see William Harrison is going to go out there and become a national hero in the Battle of Tippecanoe, which will stop their attacks. But again, when we look at this, yes, the French are seizing our ships, but do we have more issues with the British? And this is why we're going to go to war with them. The first reaction most Americans have is, let's be neutral. But once they start taking our boats, what happens to our commerce? Decline. So what happens to revenue? So what Jefferson does is he's going to pass the Embargo Act, and this is what's on number 17 of your study guide. The embargo. I know a lot of you said, like, we're not sending goods, but there's a lot more to this embargo. It says no ship shall clear from the United States to any foreign port. So are we letting our boats go overseas? No. They shall not even depart for another American port. So our boats have to stay in port. So what is going to happen to our economy? This is the second part of 17. The economy will decline. Your book told you staggered, right?
Mm-hmm.
So are our farmers going to feel happy about this? Because none of their resources are going out. Are they making money? Are our merchants making money? But he gives a caveat in this. He says, okay, you can't go to a foreign port or an American port unless you give a bond of twice the value of that ship and cargo. So let's just say the ship and cargo were $100,000. How much must you show the government you have to let that boat go out? $200,000. Do you think most people at this time are going to have that money to allow that ship to go out? No. So we're going to see that that we're going to have stockpiles of food, right? People, are they going to be happy with Jefferson? No, because our economy is declining. And Jefferson will, the reason why he does this, he says, if we stop sending them goods and we force them to recognize their neutrality, they will respect it. Will they? So this will eventually lead to the Non-Intercourse Act, which is number 18. It says all shipping and trade with the United States and the British or French controlled ports are prohibited. Can we trade with them? So no trade with Britain or France, but we can trade with the rest of the world. Okay, what do you think is going to happen when our boats go out to go to Portugal? You're going to be captured by who? The British. What happens if our boats go out to Australia? They're going to be captured by who? The French. So is there really free commerce? So the second part he gives, he says, if either Great Britain or France shall cease to violate the neutral commerce of the United States, trade and shipping will be resumed with that nation solely. So if someone agrees to stop this, that they will stop seizing our cargo, stop seizing our men, what will we do? Trade with them. Do you think either one's going to do that? No. And this is going to lead us to Macon's Bill number 2. In this one, it says intercourse. Basically, intercourse is trade. With France and Great Britain is renewed. So who are we trading with? And the rest of the world, right? But he says if either nation ceases, so if either nation stops its violations of American rights and the other refuses, so if one agrees that we will do this, right, respect your rights, and the other refuses to, we will put the non-intercourse law on the one refusing. So if one agrees that we will trade with you and respect you, we will trade with them and not with the other. What nation agrees to this? France. France will agree to this. And we know a lot of y'all put this Napoleon. That is correct. Napoleon agrees to this. And there's a reason why. Napoleon is a military mastermind. By agreeing to this, who is now America having issues with? Great Britain. And they're going to go to what with them? So who is Britain at war with now? The Americans and who? Him, right? What has he just done to his military? Split it up, right? Half their military is in Europe, the other half is in America. And why would this be a genius move? What could he do in Europe now? Take them over because they're busy where? Do you understand why he agrees to this? Because this will allow him to dominate Europe. And does he dominate Europe? And this is why he's able to take over a lot of area, because England is too busy in the War of 1812. So there is a group of people who are very excited about war. And you should have seen this on question 20. They are the warthogs. They are from southern and western United States. They're hotheads. They're ready for war. Okay? One of the reasons why they're ready for war, which you should have seen on your study guide, is they've heard their parents pushing around the British and putting them back in their place in the American Revolution, and they want their victory too. Because the British are not respecting them. There's two other reasons why they want to go to war with the British. And one of them is for additional land. So I'm just going to bring out my bad little map. What land is, here's the Mississippi River. Who owns this land over here? Spain. But eventually it's going to go to France. We know this is the U.S. Who owns this land? The British, right? And one of the things they said, if we beat the British, this would open Canada up to be another state. I know most of us think of Canada as an icebox. But does it stay like an icebox all year? No, all that ice melts. And in the summer, what do most Canadians do? Besides hang around with their moose and eat pancake syrup and maples and hang out with their maples. Huh? They're going to make food, right? So these people are going to be farmers. And so what party would they add to? If these are farmers, they would add to what party? Democratic Republicans. So the Warhawks desire additional land. They desire Canada Because it would increase whose party's rule? It would increase Democratic, Republican rule. On y'all's study guide, if y'all look at 24, it says assess the U.S. ability to fight the war. Were we ready? No, we were ill-trained, ill-disciplined, we didn't have enough money. Why was Canada an important battleground? If we obtained Canada, would the British have anything to invade the United States with?
No.
That's the reason why Canada was important. If we took away Canada, they would have nothing to invade. Why did Americans desire Canada? It would lead to what type of states? Farm states that are going to be what party? Democratic Republicans. Do you see how I'm trying to help you through your study guide? Okay. We desired for open seas because what has happened to our economy? And nationalism, we know that those southern and western hotheads just want to have their own victory ring over the British. And so many Federalists are going to oppose going to the war. They said we are not prepared, right? Because what have we done to our military?
Make it small.
Our military is small. This was again for 24. Are our soldiers trained? They're ill-trained. They also said the French violated our neutrality. And England will oppose, New England will oppose this war. Who will they support? The British. And what they will do, we're going to see that they will actually trade with the British. We're going to see they will give them food for their soldiers. And that's one of the questions here. I don't know where it is, but I'll find it soon. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to go through the war really quickly. Why do we attempt to take Canada? So it prevents the British from getting what? Prevents the British from attaining a what? A base of invasion. And because of this, because they don't get this, and actually the Canadians are really good. They get on their moose, they get their maple syrup, and they go out there and they attack, and the Americans will not be able to take Canada. So that's why Canada stays part of the British, because they're just vicious with maple syrup and meese, the plural moose. Right.
The question is 23.
Huh?
The question's 23.
23, there you go. 23 on your study guide, it says, how did New England hinder the war effort? They are going to trade with Britain. They're going to provide them food stuff. They're going to help their soldiers. So because most of this war is going to be done by naval, we're going to see our military, can they even compete with the British military navy? No, and so this is why they're going to start to outfit our ships with iron sides. Washington. Most of y'all know that in the Chesapeake, which we will see, which is question 26, the British will enter and they will burn down all of D.C. When they burn down all of D.C., we eventually know D.C. will be rebuilt. I don't know if y'all have been to D.C. today, but all of those buildings were built because of the burning of them in the War of 1812. The other thing that happens is in the Chesapeake is the Fort McHenry. I know a lot of you know the Star Spangled Banner. I don't sing well, but there's a portion that says the rockets were glare, those bombs bursting in air. Can someone carry the rest of the tune?
Yeah, through
The night our flag was still there. That's in reference to Fort McHenry. Hey, are y'all ready to sing it? I don't sing very well, but that's why I say it in a very bad cadence. We're going to see that this is when Francis Scott Key writes the Star Spangled Banner. So the significance of Fort McHenry is that what? Francis Scott Key is going to write what? Star Spangled Banner. But looking at this, is the British beating the Americans at this time?
No.
What did they do to Washington?
Burned it.
They burned it at Fort McHenry. Were they beating us pretty badly? But we still survived, right? And we're gonna see that the British, are they investing a lot of time and money in the Americas? But they're losing where? In Europe. And this is why in 29, who forced negotiations is Alexander the First. Alexander the First has told England, you are being bamboozled by Napoleon. He has forcefully divided up your military so that you could be taken over. And so this is going to lead to the Treaty of Ghent, which is an armistice. Do y'all know what armistice means? This is the one for 30. What is an armistice? A ceasefire. Did they negotiate a treaty? No, they just basically said, we're going to stop shooting each other and we're going to go back to the status quo. So we fought a war. Did it fix our issues with the British about impressment, the cargoes, them being on our land? So we basically fought a war that has no solutions, and we're going back to what we were at the beginning. Do you understand why this is the worst war fought in American history? Because did this war resolve our issues? And after the fact, the war was over around Christmas. No one has told Andrew Jackson that the war is over, and he's in New Orleans, and they beat the British. But does it count? No, it does not count. Okay, so who won the Battle of New Orleans in 27? The Americans. What is the irony in 28 about this victory?
The war's already over.
It doesn't count. Does it help the war negotiations? No. And so we're going to have the Hartford Convention. And the Hartford Convention, if you go to this note set, is right here. I think I have enough time to do this with y'all. Number 32, it says, who showed up to the Hartford Convention, the second part? New England opponents of the war. So what party do you think they are? They are what? They're Federalists who are happy or unhappy. Federalists, it's going to show Federalist discontent. So what are these New England states? Massachusetts, what else? Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Hampshire, and Vermont. They're upset. And what we're going to look at is I'm trying to get to the end of the period. I know the bell's going to ring, but I could help you with 33. Okay? What they're going to do is they're going to add in things that they want as amendments added to the Constitution. But all of these are going to be what we will see in 33, but I want to go through them because they're actually bigger things. It says representatives and direct taxes should be appointed amongst several states according to their respective numbers of free persons. They want representation based on free people. What are they trying to get rid of? They're trying to get rid of something. They only want it based on free people. What do we know gives more representation to people who are not really free? They're trying to get rid of the 3/5 compromise because this gives more power to who? The South, the Southern man, right? So who are they trying to give more power to? The Northern man or the Southern man here? The Northern man. It says no new state shall be admitted into the Union by Congress without the concurrence of 2/3 of both houses. What do they realize? As new states are coming in, what kind of states are being added? Are they Federalist or are they Democratic Republican? They're upset because all new states added are Democratic Republicans. And if those are added, what happens to their Federalist majority? It declines. It says Congress shall not have the power to lay an embargo for more than 60 days. Okay, so what are they upset about? What are they upset about? The embargo, because what happened to our economy? It went down. It says Congress shall not have the power without the concurrence of 2/3 of both houses to indirect the commercial intercourse between the United States and any foreign nation. So now they're upset about the Intercourse Act, right? Or the Non-Intercourse Act. And Makin's bill. So are they allowing Congress to have more powers or less powers?
Yes.
They are reducing the power of the federal government. Wait, is that what the Federalists believe, that the federal government should have less power?
No.
Are they flipping on their beliefs?
Yes.
Yes, they're flipping out. And do you think anybody's gonna wanna listen to them? It says Congress shall not make or declare war or authorize acts of hostility against any foreign nation without the concurrence. Are they wanting more power or are they reducing that power? No person hereafter shall be naturalized. Who would be naturalized? Immigrants. It says no person who is an immigrant shall be eligible to be a member of the Senate, the House of Representatives, or nor capable of holding any civil office. What party would this immigrant go to? This is preventing Democratic Republican rule. The last one says the same person shall not be elected from the same state for a second time. Who is it attacking?
President.
The Democratic Republican rule. Alright, we got done with 33. Just write them, it's in your notes.